بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. Your Excellency Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, Vice President Country Programs of the Islamic Development Bank. Your Excellency Dr. Rais, Chairman of Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Your Excellencies, Member of the Management of ISDB Group, members of management of leading Malaysian agencies in both public and private sectors. Your Excellencies, heads of diplomatic missions of OIC member countries in Malaysia, dear guest representatives of public and private sectors entity from IDB member countries, colleagues in IDB headquarters and regional hubs, guests from MDBs and UN agencies, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are, and Selamat Petang here in Malaysia. Welcome to the virtual event on showcasing Malaysia's replicable solutions on supporting MSMEs through COVID-19 crisis and beyond. We thank you for your participation and we hope it will be of great value to you. The ISDB Group, particularly its Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, is proud to organize this important event in partnership with leading institutions in Malaysia, namely Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, SME Corporation Malaysia, SME Corp, Investment Account Platform, IIP, International Center for Education in Islamic Finance, INCF, and our international partner, the UN Capital Development Fund, UNCDF. Our event today aims at exchanging Malaysia's experience in mitigating the negative impact of COVID-19 crisis on MSMEs and showcasing technology-based replicable MSME solutions by successful Malaysian companies and startups. In coordination with MDEC, 5 solution providers have been identified to showcase their solutions in this event today. These are Aspiracy, GHL ePayment, MyBee Solutions, Sales Candy International, and SoftSpace. They are just sample of many successful solution providers in Malaysia that we hope to have other opportunities to showcase in the near future. In this regard, I would like to express sincere thanks to our strategic partner MDEC, with whom we share similar objectives in contributing to successful digital transformation in Malaysia, as well as exchanging the best digital economy solutions with other countries. My gratitude goes in particular to Dr. Rais, Chairman of MDEC, who will kindly address the opening session, Ms. Surina Shukri, the CEO of MDEC, who will be panelist in the first session, and to Mr. Nur Hizam Kadir, Vice President, FinTech and Islamic Digital Economy at MDEC, and his dynamic team for the excellent spirit of cooperation in organizing this event. Our event today is not an end in itself. Actually, the business model of the IDB Group Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur differs from other research and knowledge centers. It aims at going beyond sharing knowledge and information, but rather trigger partnership and investment opportunities that will create value, jobs, and impactful economic growth, both in Malaysia and all other member countries of IDB. And this particularly in the focus area, as you know, of the Center of Excellence, which are Islamic finance, halal industry, science and technology and innovation, reverse linkage, and resource mobilization. This obviously could not be achieved without the support of concerned complexes, departments, and entities of IDB Group, IRT, ISEC, ICD, ISFD, ITFC, and regional hubs. And I thank all of our colleagues in these complexes and departments for their positive feedback and readiness for cooperation with the Center of Excellence, and also for their participation today. Finally, I would like to extend special thanks to the Ministry of Finance, which is our IDB Governor Office in Malaysia, and particularly the International Division team for their kind participation, cooperation and participation today. Allow me finally to express sincere gratitude for His Excellency Dr. Bandar Hajjar, the Chairman of ISDB Group, for his constant and unwavering support to the ISDB Group Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, which he considers as a component of his visionary new business model for ISDB. So our event will start shortly with keynote addresses from His Excellency Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, Vice President Country Program in ISDB, and His Excellency Dr. Rais, Chairman of MDEC. It will be followed by 45 minutes panel discussion on overview of Malaysia's strategies in mitigating COVID-19 crisis impact on MSMEs. The second session on showcasing the solution providers will start subsequently for an hour. Finally, we'll have the honor and pleasure to have Mr. Ayman Sijini, CEO of Islamic Corporation for the Development of Private Sector, ICD, the private sector arm of ISDB Group, who has kindly agreed to deliver closing remarks, and we thank him for that. Before giving the floor to our Vice President, Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, allow me to highlight some housekeeping matters regarding the technical arrangement for this event, with special thanks to the technical team who assured the technical arrangements in FIQA, in communication departments and IT departments in IDB. So the event is live streamed through Zoom for those who are in the platform now, and also on YouTube. Only presenters can share their audio and video to the attendees. And in view of the large number of participants, attendees can interact through the chat section in both Zoom and YouTube. So please, if you have a question or comments, type them in the chat section. Question will be summarized and given to the moderators to be addressed by the speakers. And now I have the great pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, our Vice President Country Program, to give his keynote address. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Mansour.
Thank you, Mohammed. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellency, Datuk Dr. Rais, Chairman of Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Let me begin by conveying goodwill message from His Excellency Dr. Bandar Hajja, Chairman of ISDB Group, who gave strong endorsement to the hosting of this event. I'm honored to present him and deliver the opening statement on behalf of the ISDB. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the government of Malaysia for the excellent cooperation and support it has always provided to ISDB. I would also like to reiterate the desire and commitment of the ISDB Group to strengthen this already excellent relationship to further our collective efforts for promoting development in ISDB member countries. It is this desire that led to the recent transformation and upgrade of the ISDB regional office in Kuala Lumpur into the ISDB Group Center of Excellence, with the objective to serve as a gateway for sharing expertise and best practices between Malaysia and other ISDB member countries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ISDB and Malaysia have a historic, long-standing, and mutually beneficial relationship. Notably, Malaysia has contributed significantly in providing technical expertise to other member countries of ISDB under the bank's capacity building, technical cooperation, and reverse linkage programs. Malaysia has also been a major destination and partner for many of ISDB-funded scholarship students. In turn, ISDB's private sector support entities, namely ISEC, ICD, and ITFC, have contributed significantly to private sector development in Malaysia. Given Malaysia's unique position as an Islamic finance hub, it has also been our key partner in promotion of Islamic finance industry. Thus, it comes as no surprise that today, at this critical juncture, we have again partnered with Malaysia to learn from their experience in supporting MSMEs during the time of crisis. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today's event is being hosted in a context characterized by the COVID-19 pandemic, a pandemic that has overwhelmed healthcare systems of rich as well as poor countries. This health pandemic has also triggered an economic downturn of unprecedented proportions. While COVID-19 pandemic has affected all sectors of our economies and caused tremendous losses, there is a consensus that micro and small medium enterprises are the hardest hit. This is of concern to ISDB member countries, where MSMEs are the main contributor to GDP and the principal employer of labor force. MSMEs face a loss of income and business, as well as liquidity and credit crunch. The crisis has put a huge strain on the usual financial intermediation channels, and as a result, reduced the liquidity available to MSMEs. In addition, containment measures to fight the pandemic have slashed global and local demand and disrupted supply chains across the world. Private sector, and particularly the MSMEs, cannot get through these crises alone. These unprecedented multitude of challenges require collective and concerted effort by the government, private sector, and the international financial institutions. On its part, ISDB has acted swiftly to support its member countries financially and technically by approving a $2.3 billion package of strategic preparedness and response program. Our program takes a holistic three-track approach, which we call 3Rs: response, restore, and restart. The three tracks are designed to assist member countries' efforts in preventing, containing, mitigating, and recovering from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic by supporting health, economic, and social sector interventions. Supporting micro and small and medium enterprises is a key component of our response program. In this respect, I would like to talk about three key programs the bank is rolling out or has rolled out to support the MSMEs under the response package. First is the $500 million Strengthening Economic Resilience of Vulnerable Enterprises program, or SERV program. The objectives of the SERV program is to build resilience of affected MSMEs to overcome the pandemic by providing the needed financial services to safeguard businesses, communities, and jobs. The second program is the line of financing facility extended to member countries for private sector firms, including SMEs. As an example, recently the bank, in close cooperation with the government of Turkey, has structured and provided two lines of financing, cumulatively totaling $370 million through the Turkish Exim Bank to support the export capacity of SMEs, as well as create additional manufacturing capacity and generate employment. A unique feature of this arrangement is the ability of ISDB to mobilize resources from the private sector to complement its line of financing by providing comfort to the private lenders in these financing structures. The last flagship program I wish to mention, which we are still processing internally, is the COVID-19 Guarantee Facility. It will be a mechanism to provide de-risking products that will complement our funding facilities by addressing the underlying issue of increased transaction risks, which is underpinning the decreased liquidity available to MSMEs. Apart from these notable programs, the bank is also strategically realigning its global value chain strategy program to support sustenance, recovery, and restoration of the MSMEs operating in critical value chains. To this end, we intend to support key firms by providing matchmaking platforms to sustain the supply continuity, strengthen local agribusiness SMEs, as well as support the MSMEs in regaining their lost comparative advantage under the new emerging realities, among other objectives. It is also noteworthy that yesterday, the ISDB Group private sector entities presented their joint action response to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, especially their support to MSMEs during a special webinar event. As part of the programs being undertaken, our private sector entities, along with the government of UAE, have launched 3 digital initiatives designed to support the flow of investment and trade in ISDB member countries. These include digital country presentation, which is a virtual gathering of stakeholders that would allow the member countries to promote their investment and trade opportunities. Second initiative is the Maiden Series, which would enable SMEs to present their projects, products, and services for securing funding and market. And third is the Startup Virtual Pitch competition, which would allow MSMEs to connect, network, and explore global market penetration. I'm also happy to announce that the ISDB has tailored its latest call for innovation under the Transform Fund to focus on supporting member countries' preparedness and response to the current COVID-19 pandemic. These science and technology-driven initiatives are key to support the market and trade ecosystem of SMEs at this time. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while ISDB is playing its part, the key battle in getting through this pandemic is being fought by the country stakeholders, the governments, and the private sector. Malaysia presents an excellent role model in this respect. The ISDB acknowledges the commendable proactive measures taken by the Malaysian government in response to COVID-19. The comprehensive 6 Rs, resolve, resilience, restart, recovery, revitalize, and reform response program has not only helped Malaysia to protect public health, but also minimize the negative social and economic impact of the pandemic. It is heartening to note that almost all economic and social activities in Malaysia are back to normal after only less than 3 months of public movement restrictions. There is no denying that the measures implemented by the government of Malaysia in support of micro, small, and medium enterprises have significantly contributed to sustaining economic activities and preserving jobs during the peak of the pandemic. There is a lot of learning and best practices that can be shared, obviously, across the board from Malaysia's experience for the benefit of our member countries. And I hope that today's event will go a long way in achieving this objective. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by thanking all the participants in this event and all those who have contributed towards its preparation and its success. Specifically, I would like to thank the Malaysian government and its public and private stakeholders for their willingness to share knowledge, expertise, and experience with other ISDB member countries through this ISDB platform. I also commend the efforts of the ISDB Group Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur for building effective partnership with Malaysian public and private stakeholders on the basis of a win-win approach, and thereby contributing to strengthening the solidarity between member countries and reinforcing the South-South cooperation spirit. Thank you for your kind attention and wish you a beneficial and insightful event. Mas salam.
Thank you very much, Excellency Dr. Mansour, for this inspiring and insightful statement. And if participants would like to react or ask information, our colleagues from IDB or your good self, if you are in the webinar, we can reply in the question and answers after the first panel. Now I have the privilege of introducing Datuk Dr. Rais, Chairman of MDEC. Datuk Dr. Rais is originally an entrepreneur, so he knows very well the SME sector with extensive experience in business, information technology and communications. And actually he co-authors a very important book on fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, blockchain, fintech, Internet of Things, reinventing a nation. Chairman, thank you again, and terima kasih, and you have the floor.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you for having me in this program Dr. Mansur Mokhtar, Vice President, Country Programs, ISB Group, Senior Management Members of ISDB Group, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is my pleasure to be here virtually at this virtual event titled Showcasing Malaysia's Replicable Solutions on Supporting MSMEs through COVID-19 Crisis and Beyond, which is organized by Islamic Development Bank with the collaboration of MDEC, SME Corp Investment, Account Platform, INSEF, and United Nations Capital Development Fund. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for many years, Malaysian digital economy is built on strong foundation and rapidly expanding with skilled talents, established initiatives by the government of Malaysia, physical infrastructure, and interconnected ecosystem with industry players. During these unprecedented times, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, people around the world had significantly altered their lives and reality. Undeniably, Malaysia is not spared from the ravages of COVID-19, similar to other countries around the globe. In every crisis lies an opportunity. For Malaysia, we are now emerging from the crisis. The government of Malaysia has introduced economic stimulus initiative. In the first phase, the Prihatin package is to help people and small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, to weather the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Penjana, a short-term economic recovery plan, was introduced to support the industries affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, while boosting domestic consumption, financing schemes, providing incentives for workers and SMEs. These packages are essentially encapsulating the survive to restart mode, survive during the times of crisis, and to be able to restart as quickly as we can once we weather through the crisis. Malaysia has a strong leadership position in the global Islamic economy. We have built the ecosystem in Islamic finance, halal standards, and many other verticals. Guided by religious principles and economic growth, we are embarking on Society 5.0, Malaysian style, that balances economic advancement with the resolution of social problems, and technology plays a role in enabling it. It is actually work in progress. Society 5.0 will achieve a forward-looking society that breaks down the existing sense of stagnation, creating mutual respect for one another, digital transformation supported by a dynamic and inclusive ecosystem that will create opportunities that are fair and equitable for all. In other words, we put human first before the technology. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the use of 4IR technologies such as fintech, AI, Internet of Things, blockchain was seen significantly in almost all industries. We saw a lifestyle change in the lives of the Malaysians and globally. I'm happy to know that today's session will give opportunity for Malaysian-based technology solution to showcase their work that they were doing for SMEs, in particular during COVID-19. To participants and ISD member countries, I sincerely hope that through this virtual event, we would exchange Malaysia's experience in mitigating the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on SMEs with ISDB member countries and showcase replicable MSEM support solutions from Malaysia for potential partnership creation. In line with MDEC's goal to establish Malaysia as the heart of digital ASEAN, it is a testament that Malaysia is a springboard into ASEAN, bridging Asia, the Middle East and Africa, and interconnected with our Ummah globally. After all, we are Ummatan Wahida, as it states in the Quran. Malaysia is also recognized as one of the global leaders in Islamic economy, once again leading the Global Islamic Economic Indicator for the 7th year in a row, as reported by the State of the Global Islamic Economic Report 2019-2020. Malaysia will continue to support, foster greater international collaboration, and sharing experience with ecosystem partners in digital economy, Islamic finance, halal, and 4IR technologies. On behalf of MDEC, we are very proud to partner with ISDB to organize this virtual event and with the support of our partners, we will continue to work with our stakeholders to achieve the mission of establishing Malaysian 5.0. As outlined in Malaysian 5.0, it can directly address the inclusion, access, performance, and growth through 4IR tools such as fintech, blockchain, and AI. Digitalization offers new opportunities for MSMEs to participate in the global economy with the opportunity to innovate and grow. I once again like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for making for this event. Thank to the organizer, Shukran Jaziran, and thank you and have a productive session ahead.
Thank you very much, Datuk, Dr. Rais, for this very informative and valuable keynote address. We come now to the end of opening session, and I have the privilege to hand over to Professor Datu Muhammad Azmi Omar, President and CEO of INCF, of course, who doesn't need an introduction, not only in Malaysia, but in IDB member countries, but especially to my colleagues in ISDB, as he was the Director General of IRTI, and he has been and he is still very active in many projects and initiatives for promoting Islamic finance in the world. So Dr. Azmi, you have the floor and to moderate the first panel of this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abida. His Excellency Dr. Mansur Mokhtar, the Vice President Country Programs of ISDB, His Excellency Datuk Dr. Rais Hussein, a dear friend of mine, Chairman MDEC, Mr. Aiman Senjeni, CEO of ICD, Mrs. Surina Shukri, CEO MDEC, Mr. Nor Azmi Matsain, the CEO of SME Corp Malaysia, Mr. Joann Enriquez, CEO of Investment Account Platform, Mr. Muhammad Abida, the acting head of the ISDB Group Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, senior management and staff of ISDB, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are located. First, let me thank ISDB for inviting me to chair this session, the first session. My name is Prof. Azmi Omar. I'm the president of the International Center for Education for Islamic Finance, a university established by the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara Malaysia. We offer only postgraduate programs, Masters and PhD in Islamic Finance, a university dedicated for Islamic Finance. And being an international university, we have almost 50% international students studying with us. Now, our session this afternoon is entitled Overview of Malaysia's Strategies and Programs in Mitigating COVID-19 Crisis and the Impact on MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises. If you look at the World Trade Organization, WTO, it stated that micro, small and medium enterprises are the backbone of many economies. In their study, they found out that 95% of all companies worldwide are MSMEs, and they account for 60% of the employment. And they are major employers of women. And again, the issue of financial inclusion is there, and young people, and a key driver of innovation, which is related to what we are going to discuss next. The situation of MSMEs in Malaysia is also similar. 98%, in fact, Malaysia is much higher than the statistics mentioned by WTO. 98.5% of business establishments in Malaysia are MSMEs. If we break them down, 76% are micro, 21% are small, and 2.3% are medium-sized companies. In total, they employ about 5.7 million people. And in Malaysia, with a population of 33 million, then you're talking about 17% of the population in Malaysia are in MSMEs. In terms of employment, they created 65.3% employment, higher figure than WTO, which quoted about 60% in many countries. So in Malaysia, 65.3%. And interestingly, especially on SMEs, 20% or 21% of SMEs in Malaysia are owned by women. again, the issue of financial inclusion, as I mentioned just now. They contributed 38.3% to Malaysia's GDP in 2018, and the figure has been increasing every year. And as also mentioned by Dr. Rais, chairman of MDEC just now, Malaysian government has implemented a number of measures to support MSMEs during this COVID-19 crisis, such as penjana, interest-free microcredits without collateral grants, and so on. So what we're going to do next is that we're going to discuss in this particular session is to highlight Malaysia's approach in supporting MSMEs in this COVID-19 crisis by looking at the various strategies and initiatives implemented by the government of Malaysia, particularly to support MSMEs. Secondly, to look at the leveraging of digital technologies, how Malaysia use technologies to accelerate the shift from in-person or face-to-face business, the physical business, into online business, and the role of MDEC, particularly in this particular shift towards digital technologies, and to look at some of the successful examples, impactful programs, and lessons learned that can be emulated and copied by other countries, other ISDB member countries. So to discuss these topics, we have three eminent panelists, and they are, to me, the right person to share their experience and to discuss this particular topic. We have Mrs. Surina Shukri, the CEO of MDEC, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. Second speaker is Mr. Noor Azmi Mat Said, the CEO of SME, Small and Medium Enterprise Corporation, Malaysia. And third is Mrs. Joann Enriquez, CEO of Investment Account Platform. Because of the time constraint, let me just give a brief overview of their background. Mrs. Surina Shukri, the CEO of MDEC. Before joining MDEC, she spent the bulk of her professional career in the United States, including 17 years of experience as an investment banker, strategist, and leader at JP Morgan Chase & Company, the largest bank in the United States. And subsequently, she came back to Malaysia to head MDEC. The second speaker is Mr. Noor Azmi Mat Said, the CEO of SME Corp Malaysia. Interestingly, also, he started his career as ExxonMobil, and subsequently he joined Malaysian Technology Development Corporation and then left to venture into entrepreneurship. So he has experience in terms of setting up startups and involved in a multiple number of SMEs in Malaysia. The third speaker is Joann Enriquez, CEO of Investment Account Platform. Joann has about 20 years of experience in financial technology firm from various S&P 500 companies in the Silicon Valley in California, where she led cross-functional teams in the US and the global community. Subsequently, she came to Malaysia to study and now is the CEO of Investment Account Platform. Okay, so let me begin the first session by asking, again, my namesake, Mr. Azmi, the CEO of SME Corp, a question. See, Malaysia, the COVID-19 crisis has certainly impacted MSME significantly in Malaysia and the cause of many lost jobs. So what are the innovative and most impactful measures undertaken by the government of Malaysia to mitigate this negative impact of the crisis on MSMEs, including informal sector? Dr. Rais mentioned earlier on about a couple of things, so maybe you may want to elaborate further on this. Mr. Azmi, the floor is yours.
Mr. Azmi, could you please turn on your video?
Video and speaker also.
Brother Mahmoud, if you can give the floor to Mr. Azmi, SME Corp.
Yes.
If not, Mr. Azmi, we can see you and hear you.
Okay, Professor, if you can start with another speaker while Mr. Azmi.
Yes, we can go to the second speaker, Mr. Surina. Again, if you look, It has affected many countries, started in China. But can you explain what is the role of MDEC in this particular case to support the digital transformation in Malaysia, both for the public and the private sector? And how does Malaysia rank in the context of digital transformation? Your microphone, please, Mr. Sorina. You need to unmute. Yep, I think should be okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and good morning and good day, everybody. So MDEC, we've been a government developmental agency close to 25 years now, and our role has always been to develop the digital. First, it was the digital industry. So when we first started close to 25 years ago, there was no ICT industry in Malaysia, and our role was to build that up. And so now what we're talking about is not just the ICT industry, but just the digital economy in general. So we play this role of being the link between private sector and public sector. And so in helping to drive everything from working with the government to think through strategy and policy to thinking about, intervention programs that will be needed to help drive the digital economy. So in terms of where we are, I would say we are quite similar to a lot of different countries right now, in the sense that we're really trying to drive mass adoption of digital. I think that what we're seeing as a whole is digital, or technology in this case, is moving from being a vertical to being a horizontal. And so today the digital economy accounts for about 20% of Malaysia's economy, but eventually, we will be moving towards an economy that's, it's all digital, a large chunk of that. So we are moving along, and one of the lessons that COVID has taught us is that, we now live in a world that is digital by default.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe later on, as we discuss, Mr. Sorina, I think what role do you play in the context of supporting MSMEs, particularly if you can elaborate a bit here? Yeah.
Absolutely, happy to support on that. In fact, I'll touch on that in the context of COVID specifically. So just now, as we talked about, in dealing with COVID, we have the government of Malaysia has got this 6R approach. So resolve, resilient, restart, recovery, revitalize, and reform. And so throughout all of this, the role of the SME was always top of mind. When we, in the resolve phase, it was really all about making sure that we have safety and security in containing COVID. And one of the ways that the government actually helped do that is not only to make sure that we have proper SOPs for how businesses would run, but also start to leverage smaller companies, startups for that matter, to help with the efforts to contain. So everything from leveraging technology with containment, to leveraging startups to make sure that information gets out there. I'll touch on that in a little bit. But as we think about the government's role in helping micro SMEs, one of the things that we realized early on is how important digital is. So pre-COVID, organizations like MDEC and some of our partners, we were always talking and advocating digital. And what COVID really has taught us is that digital is so central, and it plays a very, very important role in terms of accelerating economic recovery. So the conversations about how to accelerate recovery really was all the way up to the top of the house. So Malaysia, we have this Economic Action Council, and so probably midway through the MCO, conversations were already happening at the top of the house. Even MDEC, we had go and give a presentation on ideas on how to accelerate digital adoption. And so one of the areas that became a core focus, and this is continuing the work that had already been done, but asking questions on how do we accelerate this further, is onboarding MSMEs onto digital, and in particular, onto e-commerce. So e-commerce is one key aspect of the digital economy. And during COVID, what people realized was, if your movement is controlled, is restricted, businesses still needs to go underway, but how do you do that? And so e-commerce is one aspect of that. So lots of effort to continue to onboard MSMEs onto e-commerce. And so from a government standpoint, we've been on this path of educating MSMEs onto e-commerce. We've had training programs to that effect, but during COVID and where we are right now, those efforts are accelerated. One of the things that we did during COVID, actually two things that we did during COVID that relates to SME. Number one, because we were very, very focused on MSMEs itself and the importance of them to get onboarded. For example, during bulan Ramadan, during the month of Ramadan, there was conscious effort to onboard these MSMEs who typically would be reliant on the Ramadan bazaars as a source of income, to really onboard them onto e-commerce, onto platforms. So during this month, many, not just government, but private sector also put an effort to onboard e-commerce micro SMEs into that. And then another thing that we did also around the same time is mass training. So we had this big festival, this big online expo, partnering very closely with industry to provide content that MSMEs needed to do that. And this is the first time that we were experimenting at a very broad level using online technology, like mass for training. Before this, we always had in-person training for the MSMEs. So this time we tried online training. And the feedback we got from the MSMEs was that online training using Zoom was 98% as effective. So that was a nice learning for MSMEs. And during that time, we were able to touch 5,000 plus people in these online classes, plus 65,000 people were following along. So with that learning, now that we are, Dr. Rais just now mentioned the economic recovery plan, these efforts are continued, this onboarding MSMEs onto e-commerce, but we're also partnering very closely with the private sector to help do that. So during the month of, when we did it, we led in a small pilot way, 5,000 plus people got onboarded. And then now, as part of the economic recovery plan, the goal is to onboard 145,000 MSMEs onto e-commerce platforms. So this part is
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. We now have Mr. Azmi from SME Corp. Now coming back, thank you, Selena. Okay, Mr. Azmi, again, can you share with us in terms of what are the innovative and impactful measures that have been taken by the government of Malaysia, and particularly SME's Corp role in this particular measures undertaken by the government?
Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone. Okay, the keywords here is impactful measures, and also we're talking about including the informal sectors and what SME Corp involvement or roles in these areas. So when we talk about COVID-19, COVID-19 has impacted us or caused disruptions in two ways. One is social disruptions, and also the other one is economic disruptions. When we talk about economic disruptions or economic issues, we're looking at three different areas. One is from the perspective of the public, the government, which looking at GDP, for example. And then we're looking at from the perspective of the people, where the concern of the people is income to buy goods, and also the supply of goods that they want to keep them survive. And when it comes to the private sector or the business, often the issues is all about cash flow. So when there is no economic activities and there is no social activities, and this needs means, for example, like cash flow is not happening, but eventually, if nothing being addressed, the business would die. So, and when looking at the needs for to buy goods or income for the people to buy goods, people will look for jobs. So, and when we look at jobs offering in most countries, or in especially in the even in developed countries, or in small in any countries, about more than 60% of job creation or job offering come from the SMEs, small medium enterprise. And in some countries as well, like Malaysia, jobs offering by SMEs is about 7.2 million jobs, which is about 6.2% of the total jobs offering in the country. And when we look at the SMEs contributions to the GDP for Malaysia, SMEs contributing about 38.3% or 521.7 billion ringgit annually. And in other countries like Korea or Japan, SMEs contribute more than 50% to the GDP. So this is where the focus of the government when the issues on or when facing COVID-19 has been always started with maintaining or how to keep our SMEs survive throughout the crisis. And which the first phase is we're talking about cushioning the impact, which is like what Sarina had mentioned, the relief measures. Then now we add recovery measures. So I think the impactful measures, if we're looking at the relief measures, because of restriction or shrinking cash flows issues, SMEs facing especially in 4 different areas. One is to pay their current commitment loans. 2, to pay salary to keep their workforce intact. 3, talking about rental commitment that the SME have to pay. And then when it comes to following the salary wages issues, things like the statutory commitments by SMEs, all these have to be paid while there is no income. So this is where measures like a moratorium for financing facilities for 6 months to keep the SMEs afloat, so that they don't have to work on the commitments that they have. Then wage subsidy, where the government subsidize wage. The reason for wage, one good reason for wage subsidy is to make sure that the skilled workforce in the SMEs remain with the business, so that once the economy start to recover, the SMEs were able to do their best again with minimal disruption in the workforce. They don't have to train new workforce. They have their trained workforce with them, and through the assistance of wage subsidy, they don't have to retrench or terminate their trained employees. So this, in the end, it will gain back to the nations because we don't have to spend for.
Yeah, if I can interject here. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. If I can interject here, because of the time constraint also. I mean, what lessons can we share with other countries in terms of what Malaysian government has done and your institution has done in this particular case?
Okay. For example, I think the key thing for SME Corp is that we have since the early beginning of MCO, we have set up a task force, a group that link closely with the entrepreneurs or the SMEs, all the associations. So our objective is to get or to gather inputs live or direct from the ground, so that we will be able to receive a pulse from the ground and react accordingly what happening at the ground. Because that is key, because whatever measures, whatever interventions that the government need to do cannot be based on January or even past year statistics. It has to be based on the current statistic. This is where we've been working on with associations and also industries that within our reach to gather the inputs. Based on that input, with a percentage that or indication that shown how significant, how severe is the situations, this is where we feedback back to the government the issues, and then from there the government looking at what best measures could be done. I think that is one very key measures, because you cannot rely on previous data. You must rely on data from the ground to make decision. Similarly, when we're looking now, we're still gathering data from the ground to understand once the government introduced, for example, the first package or the second package, or now in Penjana package or recovery package, we gathering pulse from the ground. What's the impact? What's the feedback? So, for example, when it comes to employment, when MCO started, the associations or even the Malaysian Employer Federation estimate about 2 to 3 million jobs will be terminated. So unemployment will be 2 to 3 million unemployment. Through that feedback, with inputs from the industry, the government introduced the wage subsidy. With that wage subsidy, the government saved 2.3 million unemployment over a period of the MCO period. So this is, I think, the key things that measures that
we can learn from this. Yeah, thank you. Because of the shortage of time, let me go to Mrs. Joann, the CEO of IAP. You know, IAP is something unique, very innovative model. It is an example of what we call implementation of Islamic finance to attract SMEs funding through crowdfunding. I mean, so can you tell us what's the role and what has IAP done to support MSMEs pre and also during this crisis, COVID-19 crisis?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah. I am first humbled to be part of this conversation, to be among the advocates of Islamic finance and the guardians of the Islamic digital economy. First of all, Dato, I would like to go ahead and start the story a bit so that we can retract. So to give context of what IAP is, so that the audience can understand. About in 2013, the IFSA, or the Islamic Financial Services Act, was basically put into law. So our Malaysian government or our Malaysian institutions wanted to differentiate, specifically Bank Negara wants to differentiate our Islamic deposits from conventional deposits. So just to give you an idea, in March, our total deposits in Malaysia was about 1.3 trillion ringgit. Around 70% of that is conventional, and around 30% is Islamic. So the Malaysian government wanted to differentiate the Islamic deposit by making it go into specific investments, and that is called investment account. So with the inspiration of Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara, 6 banks came together to put together a platform called Investment Account Platform Now, to be able to crowdfund for specific projects that will serve small and medium scale entrepreneurs. As you have emphasized the importance of the SMEs in the world specifically, and Sheikh Azmi gave you a very clear picture of the specificities in Malaysia, there is a big funding gap, and that's where Islamic finance, investment account platform, and the investment banking product wants to fill a gap. Even pre-COVID, we were having issues of funding. Post-COVID, it's even more so. So we are a unique case because it is bank intermediated. So when a platform applies, when a entrepreneur or a business applies in the platform, it goes digitally, it goes to all of the participating banks, and it is underwritten, or the due diligence is done then, all electronically. And then once a bank takes it up for listing, the investors, whether retail, corporate or institutional, can go ahead and book also online to fund this particular investment. A case in point right now, we've launched a project for the funding of the purchase of laptops by a venture called ICT Ventures. And it will finance the purchase of the laptops, and they need 7.5 million to do so. It was launched last Friday, and we're now 30-40% funded. A big chunk of that is coming from the excess funds of cooperatives, retail investors who can afford to go ahead and invest. Meaning not everyone can just invest, because you do have to qualify and fill up the investor assessment form, meaning
you
that
may want to say that. Yeah, you may want to say that. You may want to say that it is based on mudarabah for those who do not know this.
Okay, yes. So it is a two-leg contract, meaning the investor will be able to sign a mudarabah contract with the bank, basically entrusting them to be able to then sign a murabaha contract with this particular venture to purchase the laptops for profit. So the beauty of this is that people come together in the platform, whether you can only afford the most minimum requirement, or whether you're a cooperative that has excess fund of 2 million. So everyone sits side by side to be able to support this. As our prior esteemed speakers have said, it is necessary, it is almost necessary for public and private to come together. Otherwise, the government cannot simply saturate or satiate the need of all of these people. So this is a particular platform where it is bank intermediated, meaning the investors can trust institutions like Tabung Haji, if it's big enough, can also invest. And they all come together to whether it's buying laptops or funding hospitals or building bridges, or what else did we do? Building tracks for the train. All of these projects, everyone come together and support each other to be able to do this. And post-COVID, we see that this is even more necessary and almost critical. I'm not going to emphasize on too much on the Islamic bit, but in the Islamic side, there is a very big need on the venture side to find Islamic financing, and on the investor side to find Islamic investments as well. So this platform brings them together, and we've successfully done so on 14 projects, and inshallah more to come.
Okay, thank you. Because in the interest of time, I'm now going into the question and answer session. I have the first question here coming to Mr. Surina, the CEO of MDEC. How developing IDB member countries can leapfrog to catch up in the digital transformation? So what are the latecomer advantages and disadvantages in this particular case?
Yeah, so on this, one of the advantages is the fact that technology is really not the key thing to the answer. Because I think that in the beginning, when you think that you need technology first before everything else. But the truth is right now, the technology part of it is the easiest part in any kind of solution. So when your solution, it's the importance of remembering that you need not just technology, but people, process, and technology. And so if you have that mindset in the very beginning, when you try and work on any kind of solution, that's already at an advantage, because you're not just focused on just the technology bit. The technology part itself is very easy now. Technology is cheap, it's available, and so forth and so forth, but you look at it from a people, process, technology standpoint. Another piece of advice that I would have is some of the learnings that we had just on this call alone is 3 C's. So what are these 3 C's strategies that you can have? One, consultation. So just now, even Azmi said just now, we were always the task force listening. So you have to stay close to your customer. You have to stay close to your stakeholder to really understand what they need. And so that's consultation. 2, collaboration. One approach that we had in COVID was to collaborate very closely with private sector. And this is for 2 reasons. Number one, collaboration for speed, because like working with startups, we really got solutions out quite fast. And then scale. So you really, you can collaboration for speed and scale. And then finally, the 3rd C is connection, connecting the dots. So if you have this perspective of, it is all about connecting the dots, then that actually helps you do solution much. So like, for example, MDEC, during COVID, we were really listening and then help connect the dots between buyer and seller. And so if you have this perspective of, how do you connect the dots, how do, and then how does MDEC and SME Corp connect the dots with other people? That's key. So 3 C's, consultation, collaboration, and connecting the dots.
Okay, thank you very much. Very, very important point. The 3 C's. I thought it's cash, credit, and cars. Okay. So we have consultation, collaboration, and connection. Very important points to be remembered and used for countries. Now to SME Corp, Mr. Azmi, what are the top 3 priorities government can play to ensure resilience of MSMEs to survive in this crisis and post-COVID-19 crisis? The top 3 priorities that government can implement.
Okay, I think first of all, to focus on SMEs is one of the things that good decisions that any government could do. And when focusing on SMEs, one is post-COVID, SMEs having problem or issues to restart. How to assist SMEs for them to restart, especially in the micro and small sectors. For example, like micros, basically they are in a bread and butter situation. And when they're not doing any trade over the past 2 or 3 months, all their saving being used up. And this is where they need funds to restart. They have all the equipments, all the necessary infra, but they need assistance to restart. Then to assist business that now the scenario has changed or the model has changed. For example, those who might have doing their business of brick or mortar or physical sites, but now post-COVID, they might find out that their business no longer needs that physical site, but they need more enhancement or more assistance going into digital or digitalization of their business. So assistance in utilizing the business is also, I think, the key issues for to make the SMEs resilient and we're able to rebound fast. That's we're looking at the micro and small. But if you look at the medium size or upper small size, their needs will be different. So there must be a different package or different approach addressing the needs of those in SMEs that in a big structure like medium and upper small, which the needs are different. They're not that agile to change the way of doing business, but they are key in the economic engines when it comes to bring more participation or more values or figures in terms of GDP activities. So I think these are the key things to assist for the business to restart. Doesn't matter it's a small, micro or medium size. 2 is digitalization has been the key. So assistance in digitalizing the business, not just to the SME side, but also to the people side, the client side, those that want to start using digital platforms. So building up trust in that digital platform, this is also key. And for the micro, for the upper small and medium size, this more like issues on to restart back their business in because they're more industry focused, like those might involve in automotive sector, those might involve in aerospace sector. So, for example, we notice in the country since there are slowdown in the aerospace sector, now they start to convert, the aerospace players start to produce a medical device product. So they have the same facilities, the same equipments that were able to serve the medical device product. So this is a change of model, change of business, because it's involved facilitations, guidance, and hand-holding, because entrepreneurs post-COVID, people like, in a way, they are in a scenario like a fish swim in water, and they don't know the value what water is. So the governments need to, in a way, to show to SMEs, okay, this is water, this is fish. So
okay,
you swim in it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think the message that you're saying is that it should be more focused support depending on the sector and industry that they're operating, rather than one general assistance. Okay, thank you very much. The last question to Joann is that how to leverage Islamic social finance to support MSMEs in Malaysia. So how can we use Islamic social finance such as zakat, wakaf, sadaqah, and to support MSMEs in Malaysia?
So
and what is IAP, for example, in this particular case?
Thank you for the question, Dato. So what we are trying to do is we believe that for the full utility of the Islamic economy, we have to utilize zakat and wakaf. So right now we are exploring how we are able to use that. We have a project that we are looking at with IDB actually. I cannot go on details because it's still under processing and not yet all finalized. But for a particular wakaf land, we are looking to build a hospital. So it's wakaf land where IDB's wakaf money that was meant to invest in wakaf development will be utilized, where banks' money will also come in and the people can also invest. So we are able to use this investment account platform in Malaysia to be able to utilize a fully holistic Islamic economy, and obviously that is done digitally. So you have a very good case for the Islamic digital economy that utilizes investment, crowdfunding, wakaf, and possibly zakat money. We are in the process of finalizing this, and inshallah, if it will be successful, and we can use it as a model for the rest of the world, because there are a lot of wakaf assets that needs to be utilized, and there are a lot of people also who want to invest in these types of development, but would also want their money back and a little bit of profit back as well. So we hope to facilitate that, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much. We are at the end of the session. Let me thank all the panelists as well as the organizer for inviting us to this particular very important session, session 1. Now I hand over the session to Mr. Abida. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Azmi, and all the esteemed panelists for this interesting and stimulating session, from which we learned a lot on Malaysia's strategies and programs in mitigated COVID-19 crisis, impact on MSMEs, and especially the use of technology and the promotion of digital transformation. Also, thanks to participants who have intervened and sent their comments and questions in the Q&A. Given the short of time now, I immediately have the pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Jaspreet Singh Sethi, Global Innovation Lead and Regional Technical Specialist, UNCDF, who will moderate the second session on showcasing Malaysia's MSME support solutions with high potential for exchange with other member countries, with presentations from representatives of fintech solution providers from Malaysia, 5 of them, and hope really will benefit and enjoy these technology solutions, practical and very innovative and very helpful to SMEs. Please, Mr. Jasprit, you have the floor, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abid. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for taking time out for this webinar. And it's kind of indeed interesting in terms of the topic we are trying to cover. I think the last session had a good crux of discussion, broadly at the macro level and at the micro level, what and how the post-COVID world should basically engage on ensuring that economies are more resilient as they, try to reshape the SME sector in a way, which is kind of a bedrock for most of the economies across the world. I think it was mentioned very clearly by Ms. Surina as well, that people, process, and technology are the three key elements to this. Technology is just one part of it. It is broadly the aspects like, the pain points that we are trying to address, and, how those pain points and experience is basically being delivered becomes an important part of ensuring that the revival of SMEs, or when we think of digitization, the impact can be achieved in the right way. And I think this one next hour basically will focus on unpacking some of those SMEs based solutions or solutions based out of Malaysia, which are actually addressing the pain points of the micro and SME segments across the spectrum, irrespective of which industry they are in. And I'll kind of, I'll have a pleasure to kind of introduce you to the 5 different partners in Malaysia who would be sharing about their individual solutions and how each of them are creating impact. I think I'll just pick up from that last C, the 3 C's that we spoke of in the last conversation. As we think of, really the revival of MSMEs and how those revivals can actually function in a way, I think the other 3 C's which are equally important to look at now, which is how we enable the cash flow for the MSMEs, how we then enable the customer flow from them, and then followed by capital flow. And I think the 5 solutions that we are going to speak about is actually going to just demonstrate that. I am Jaspreet Singh from United Nations Capital Development Fund. We are a UN agency that is primarily focused on financial inclusion and inclusive digital economies, bringing in with the idea of how capital can be a key integral part of building economic resilience. And I think the aim of this discussion on partnerships is at the crux of what UN is trying to promote or work on, because it kind of follows up with all other things that are to come. These are 5 speakers who will introduce themselves as we kind of open the floor to them. And, I think as I spoke earlier, the entire focus of the next 50 minutes, 55 minutes of the session would be entirely on the pain points of the MSME and how those pain points are being addressed in different dimensions. We'll hear from these 5 speakers, who are basically trying to address issues right from supply chain digitization to issues around easing the excess of credit flow to, helping MSMEs build a good customer flow at their end. And we'll, try to also understand that, while we heard in the earlier session, a lot of MSMEs are at different stage of readiness when it comes to digitization or, trying to basically participate in a new economy in a way. We will also kind of hear about some of these providers in this presentation in terms of who are helping MSMEs move from being offline to online. Without taking much of your time on that, I would like to invite on the floor our first speaker, and which is Mr. Gurpreet Khera from Aspirasi, who would basically help us understand how Aspirasi is basically ensuring that the ease of capital, which is kind of that bottleneck is removed in a way that that people feel more comfortable, MSMEs feel more comfortable while they start their revival process. Over to you, Gurpreet.
Thank you, Mr. Jaspreet. And maybe before I begin, just my thanks as well to such an esteemed audience that we have here today. It's a great honor to be able to present our solutions among this esteemed forum. If I can just begin quickly with a background on where we're from, Aspirasi.
Gurpreet, you have to take the control of my screen. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, wonderful. So just a quick background. Aspirasi is a company within the Axiata digital ecosystem. And the background here is that Axiata, a large telco holding company in about 2012, 2013, realized that all of these assets that we have as a telco holding company, whether that's a deep understanding of our customers, data on our customers, could be used to tackle some of the pain points within our markets. Specifically, on the left-hand side, digital financial services or fintech. So these markets are Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and a small presence in Nepal as well. And since in the journey, we've really, I think, made major strides. So in Malaysia, we now have the largest e-wallet, which is a very consumer-facing brand that we're quite proud of. That's known as Boost. Aspirasi is a sister company which does microfinancing. And I'll just get quickly into it, yeah? This is a kind of a point that's already been spoken about quite extensively. I think Mr. Nur Azmi spoke about it, and a few others, Serena spoke about this as well. But it's also unsurprising to us, since we've been in the industry, just the scale of the problem. So if I just anchor for everybody here, these are statistics from Bank Negara Malaysia, which is our central bank, on access to funding for SMEs from medium all the way through to micro. And we can see from here that anywhere between 30 to 35% of financing needs are being met by existing solutions. Now that's abysmal, and it's a shame, right? So the vast majority of needs are being met by either own cash, family and friends, internally generated savings, and that can act as a constraint on SME growth. So that's really the problem we're trying to tackle here. In the 2 years that we've been operating in this segment, and I prefer to start with this, the pain points, we've actually realized a few very surprising things. And I think I heard some of these points earlier from some of the esteemed speakers in this forum as well. So on the one hand, you have the rational pain points of SMEs, that the process is not smooth, the documentation requirements are very extensive from existing financial institutions, the terms may be onerous and complex, difficult to understand, limited information. But what surprised us is there's also a whole piece around the emotional pain points to the SME. And this goes to how well your solution understands the SME segment, the micro segment, the small segment. And here, what we had heard from a vast majority of our customers were that sometimes there is a psychological fear that they may not be taken seriously by existing options. There is a lack of option at the moment of need. There is a feeling that they're poorly understood. So these are the pain points that we wanted to tackle, make the process seamless, make it easy, quick, and we wanted to do it with empathy as well. Enter our solution. This is Aspirasi. Aspirasi is a digital financial services platform. And as you can see at the very top, our DNA is any decision we make is within 3 minutes, so the customer does not wait very long. It's completely digital, so the process is over on their handphone. We do all of the hard work on our side using our AI credit model. So that's pulling from multiple different data sources. So the customer does not need to do that. And a key one for us that we're very proud of, being a government-linked company in Malaysia, is that it is Sharia compliant. So we use a tawaruk structure in Malaysia. Now this can take the form of many different financing at the bottom, from longer term financing to shorter term financing. And we work with a host of partners, as you can see at the bottom there, so that when we go to the SME, we go with a partner that they understand very well and have a relationship with. This is a little bit about how we do what we do. So that credit model that I was referencing earlier has to be nimble and has to be able to handle a range of different data sources, because SME will have patchy data, especially the micro SME. Sometimes that means there is transaction data, whether we have application data or behavioral data. We marry all of this together to give us a full view and do all the work. Just wait, I'm trying to move to the next page. Now, I'm quite proud to share, oh dear. If we can just go back up. I'm quite proud to share that similar to how Puan Serena was sharing and how the Malaysian government had made strides during this movement control order or the COVID uncertainty, one of the programs we put together as well is Aspirasi Assist. That this is something that's received a lot of media attention here in Malaysia, and it's something we encourage any SME to apply to. The terms of this financing are very generous, from a 6-month holiday moratorium on payment with no interest accrued, completely digitally, so it's over in 5 minutes, and we don't have to have a pre-existing relationship. any SME can go to aspirasi.co today and receive up to 20,000 in financing immediately. And the interest rate is kind of especially for that segment, is a very generous 0.5% after the 6-month holiday. We also bundle in insurance protection. Now I realize I'm time constrained. Perhaps I'll skip this one and just at this stage, it might be better if I had answered questions. But this is an example that I'll allow to run in the background of how a customer journey looks. And it's a journey that takes anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes maximum. Jaspreet, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gurpreet. I think that was indeed interesting to see, how you are basically unlocking capital for the MSMEs, and, at least not only the ones who are actually banked, but also the ones who are unbanked in different ways. I have a follow-up question for you, Gurpreet. While easing the flow of credit is indeed important, as we know, as we think of post-COVID world, how do you see the model getting scaled up in other markets? What are your prerequisites?
It's a great question. So obviously, a key requirement for us is the availability of data, because then that allows us to make a quick decision on the SME. So that's a key one. But I think another major one for us is the ability to work with the local ecosystem. That's made a difference here in Malaysia, and it's something we look forward to in many of the other markets. I think when it comes to SMEs, the point that I want to drive home today is that emotional empathy is just as important as the rational pain point of your solution. It's important to go in with someone they know. It's important for it to be tailored to their specific pain points. And that's what we would do in any new market.
Thank you so much indeed. And I think we'll kind of get to ask Gurpreet questions towards the end of the webinar. With that, I would like to bring in someone who is trying to digitize the value chain itself, between and for the MSMEs in a way that MSMEs can create better value while they can purchase goods in bulk and in that way. I'd like to invite Mr. Cheong Wee Yuk, who is CEO of My Business Solutions based out of Malaysia. Mr. Cheong, the screen is over to you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to get Aisha, one of my colleagues, to share her screen so that we can do the presentation. Aisha? Okay, I'm the CEO of MyBiz. The topic that I'm going to cover, I'm glad that Serena brought up the point about connecting the dots. In connecting the dots, we're looking at the SMEs, but the SME is just one part of the equation. There's the other part of the equation which I like to bring up. So if they can stop the presentation and let Aisha share her screen. Just stop the presentation and let Aisha share her screen. Yeah. Okay. While Aisha shares the screen, can you then unmute her as well? Yeah, thank you. So for the policymakers, I wanted to highlight a couple of things that I think are important. Today, for the rest of the sessions, you'll be hearing about how we can prepare the SMEs for the digital period, right? In digitally online. So that's concentrating on the SMEs. But I want to draw the attention of the policymakers, the investors, and the strategies of the national strategies, that you need to also think about what is on the other side of the equation, right? So that's the reason why the topic was, well, the procurement itself being critical to the survival and the growth of the SMEs. Next. The reason why this is brought up as an important thing is, I'm going to borrow two models, business to consumer, B2C, and business to business, which is B2B. If you look at the model, it is very, very, very different. You can see that in the B2C model, the B is the retailer, the SMEs itself. The consumers are the buyers, people like you and me, shopping on Lazada, shopping on Amazon, eBay, and so on. So that's B2C. A lot of our discussion so far is about financing the SME, enabling the SMEs, getting them ready, and so on. That's focusing on the SMEs. I think the large part of something that must not be forgotten is that the SMEs, there's one part which is a retailer. The other part is when the business buys from the SMEs. That contributes about 60 to 70% of the procurement spend itself. There's a huge amount of spend that's spent between the buyer and the SMEs. All right. So in those cases, what are different? In B2C, they are online retailer. They can, as long as they pay any amount of money, they're on Lazada, they can sell. But in B2B, they are authorized suppliers. If they are not authorized, they're not registered, they're not qualified, they're not approved, they can't no one can buy from them. A buyer from a large corporation will not be able to buy from the SMEs. So bear that in mind as I now go through the rest of my presentation. So let me quickly introduce myself. I was in London, May this year, last year, sorry, to the World Procurement Awards. And we won the Procurement Consultancy Project Award for the best global project. We beat Pricewaterhouse into second place, so very proud of that as a Malaysian company. Secondly, we also previous year, we got the Solution Provider of the Year for Asia Pacific as far as procurement is concerned. And on top of that, 7 years ago, Gartner listed us as the first Asian vendor to be listed in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is for strategic sourcing, procurement, and so on. We also tasked as one of the modern examples of technology. Now, the next thing I want to bring up is, I talked about this B2B and B2C and the buyer, okay? So why is that important? The large companies are critical to help the SMEs survive. If you think we're going to just focus on the SMEs and they will figure it out, the answer is no. They can figure it out for the B2C, but for the B2B, they need help, okay? Why do I say they need help? They essentially, with the relationship that they have today with the buyer, they are trusted suppliers. If they're trusted, and in the new world, things change. It's no longer about physically meeting you and physically having a relationship with you. That relationship lightens. So you can see in the illustration, it lightens to the point where over time, it drifts apart. Okay, that means if you rely on knowing Ahmad from another country and he'll deliver to you, you quickly find out that his prices don't meet, he can't deliver as efficiently as others, or the corporation no longer uses the physical approach, they want everything digital, you may not be able to source from Ahmad anymore. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, what I'm going to do now is to highlight the reality. And I'm going to invite Aisha to just take you through what is tomorrow, which is actually happening today. So you can actually get to see how does a buyer in a large or middle-sized company, how do they actually procure and buy from these SMEs? So Aisha, take it away.
All right. Assalamualaikum and a very good day, everyone. So today I'm
It's very soft. Can you speak louder?
Okay.
Still soft.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good day, everyone. I'm going to show you the reality of the new world. In the new world, it is either your products are in the buyer system or they are not. Either you are a registered vendor or not. Here, I'll show you a demo of when a buyer log on to their e-procurement portal. This is a Time Darby portal, which we use for training. So how does a buyer purchase product or services? So it is actually simply by commanding to create PR for PPE. And when they just command it on the system, all of the PPE will come out, but it is the PPE that they are authorized to buy. And for Sime Darby Industrial, all of the industrial items are coming out. So how they decide to buy? You might think that it is like Lazada, Alibaba, eBay, and all, but it's not, because in the buyer system, they choose the best. And if you are not in, you are out. If your product is not there, they cannot buy, they cannot even see your product. So let's say now you want to create PR for something else, like probably shoe. So just shoe. So if you look for shoe, it will bring you to the product, but it will only shortlist it to the 2 shoes that you can buy from this supplier from Malaysia and this supplier from Singapore at that price. So if you're not in the system, they cannot even look for you. And after that, if in the future, they are all going to use and buy from suppliers from all over the world and use different language. So this James from Sime Darby Healthcare, he wants to purchase shoe, but he is using a mixed language, which is Malay and Arabic. Buatkan PR untuk hizaun, which is shoes in Arabic. So the untuk here, UTK, is also short form, and the system will bring him to the shoes that he is authorized to buy, with these 2 shoes for healthcare, for nurses shoes, because it's he's buying for the hospital. So yes.
Thanks, Asha. Mr. Cheong, I think we are really running out of time. In interest of giving floor to everyone else, we would have to really
Yes.
bring it close to the presentation. But I'm but we are more than happy to share with you the demo link of what Aisha is sharing right now, so that after the presentation, please feel free to take a look at it.
Yes.
Thanks
Yes,
so much, Aisha. I'll kind of hold you on over there.
It is. We are actually counting in this demo in our time as well.
Right. I think we are already run. Okay. So, Mr. Cheong, I just have a follow-up question for you. If you can quickly, maybe put an answer to it in a minute. What are 1 or 2 challenges that you think are crucial when implementing the solution in B2B space, especially as you think of rolling this out in other markets beyond Malaysia?
I think the biggest challenge in the past has been the comfort and trust when we're dealing with companies overseas. They normally want to see us face to face. They want to shake our hands. They want to have dinner with us. They want to have plenty of meetings and discussions before they trust you. Recently, for Sime Darby, we had a situation. We finished the training and then the MCO started, so we were restricted from moving. So we completed the requirement study. We did the development. We did the configuration. We migrated 8,000 suppliers, 1 terabyte of data. We did the user acceptance test. We did the cut over to production, and we went live without a single physical meeting. So this is the first time we've had a project like this, where the client did not even need to see us face to face, and they were able to let us work from home. Our developers, our analysts, our project managers, the users, everybody just worked from home, and it was implemented on time. So that I would say is a challenge of the past, because with COVID-19, people realized they can't travel. So expecting a vendor to turn up on your doorstep, it is no longer a wish list. So with that, I think that the world is going to change dramatically. I'm proud of the team to be able to do that with the first.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Cheong, for that. And I think with that, I'll actually, bring someone else in the conversation who's actually trying to, really do this on the B2C side of things, trying to, really encourage the MSMEs to drive their customer flows and sales in a way which they can drive income and growth. Over to you, Jeffrey. Jeffrey?
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction, Jeffrey. So just to give a little bit of introduction. So one of the co-founders of Sales Candy, my name is Jeff, and I'm also the Chief Growth Officer at Sales Candy. Basically, Sales Candy is a lead management system, and we kind of enable SMEs to SMBs and also to large enterprise enable their sales force through kind of a Grab as a service for their salespeople. So let's say, for example, in this case over here, the main key verticals that we're targeting is, real estate, insurance brands, and also an automotive segment. But we also cater to like small sales teams of about 5 to about 10, right? So the kind of pain points that we actually solve is, for example, when management actually passes on those inquiries, usually they don't really know whether or not those inquiries are being attended to or not. Right? And there's a lot of lack of accountability. Those leads go stale over time, and usually they're unable to, especially during this COVID-19 period of time, they're unable to really predict their sales forecasting. So we're a venture-backed startup, and we've received about $1.5 million US so far within the span of our 2.5 years of business, and we have presence in across 7 countries. So the main issue over here is we're kind of solving kind of prospects who are kind of waiting too long, right? Because I'm pretty sure everyone over here has submitted an inquiry once in their lifetime before, right? And a lot of times when you submit an inquiry, you don't even know whether or not you're being attended to or not, right? And these days when, there's Grab and there's Postmates, Uber, and you get an instant gratification when you actually click on the button itself and you get the service instantly, right? But a lot of times when it comes to SMEs, they're unable to provide this kind of instantaneous service, right? So let's say, for example, a prospect over here is willing to purchase a lead to sale product, and subsequently they saw the app, and they proceed to enter their name, email, and phone number. And a lot of times SMEs, they have this manual process in place, right, where they're only able to attend these inquiries maybe every 48 working hours, or even 5 working days. So the second problem that we're actually attending is, especially with the new norm, right, when a lot of the workforce in terms of SMEs, a lot of them are actually working from home right now. And and let's say, for example, they're actually passing leads down to the sales reps. And a lot of times it's actually tough for management to actually monitor these downlines without, software helping them out. So the solution that we're actually getting them to is to buy in is basically connecting to all the lead sources and basically enabling their sales workforce to actually accept the leads wherever they are, right? They could be at their home, in the toilet, and having a smoke break or whatnot. But essentially they're able to close sales anywhere, which is kind of our tagline as well. So can you just skip to the next slide? Yeah.
Keep speaking, Jeffrey. I'll try to get the slides back on.
Sure. Yeah. And so basically what we do is we allow the top management to be able to actually monitor their work from home workforce all the way from different locations, different countries. And also one thing that we also did realize is, especially during the lockdown period, we know that, the SMEs revenue was heavily hampered. So as we understand that, revenue was actually the key to actually maintaining their sales workforce, we were trying to find ways, right, for them to actually get organic sales. For example, integrating with like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, so on and so forth. So on top of that, as a kind of an added benefit, we kind of waived the subscription fee for SMEs during this lockdown period, as we do know it's actually even tougher for them to actually manage to even pay for cost of sales. So one thing which we're trying to help out as a tech startup right now is also to kind of do waive during this and kind of get them through during these tough times. So that's all for my slides. Yeah, thank you so much, Jeffrey.
No, thank you so much, Jeffrey, for keeping it within the short span of time. I think we do have questions, but I think I'll kind of commit towards the later part of this conversation. I'll like to bring I think sales. We spoke about the sales and how you can generate the leads from that aspect. We talk about the digitization of supply chains in a way. We talked of the ease of credit. But one thing that was very constantly being looked at during this COVID-19 period was the aspect that a lot of people who were affected due to lockdown were not able to engage in the market because they were offline. I'll like to invite someone from the panel, Mr. Danny Chang, who is basically at the forefront of working on moving and shifting the Malaysians from offline to online so that they can continue engaging in an environment, despite the lockdowns and every other hurdle that we are facing. Danny, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Okay, let me see. Good day, everyone. Hang on, I'm just going to get the next slide. Sorry, I'm just going to go. Sorry, Jeffrey. I just I need to ask.
I think Surina said it very clearly. It's less about technology; it's about people and process. So just bear with us.
All right. Okay. Good day, everyone. First of all, I'd like to just hope you can hear me well. Just quickly introduce myself. I'm the group CEO for JHL Systems Berhad. We are primarily a payment acquirer in the ASEAN market space. We got over 1,000 people, founded in 1994. We're in 7 countries, and we have over almost close to 400,000 footprint Here we mean by footprint is basically points that you can actually accept payments, right? Whether it's a credit card payment, debit card, ATM payment, or e-wallet payment, right? We are listed on the KL Stock Exchange. We're proud to say that we actually process over 1.5 billion ringgit worth of transaction volume every month, right? So in short, we are the payment guy for ASEAN, whether it's offline or online. So during this whole COVID-19 pandemic, we have actually introduced a few products. Some of it we were working on it beforehand to actually be able to quickly introduce and efficiently introduce these products to the micro SME. I'll just go through 4 of them today. First one is basically our ePay product, which is primarily based in Malaysia. This enables micro SME to make more money. It's just as simple as that, right? By providing to them ability to sell digital products. So the actual cash outlay is quite low. It's down to how much they can put in its credit, and they can sell all this mobile reload and collect bills in addition to what they're currently doing for selling things for their customers. So it appears to, it can be a sundry shop, it can be a news agent, can be anybody, whether they have a physical shop or whether it's in a kiosk base or even totally mobile, right? So we find this very, very effective to help this micro SME to make more money. Next, we actually, and this was launched quite 2 weeks after our lockdown, which is towards in Malaysia, towards end of March. We realized that we need to help micro SME to get online fast, the traditional guys to get online fast from offline to online. So we came up with this program, which we actually were waiving things, a package for them, and package together a payment gateway solution, i.e. ability to accept payment online, an online store, and a delivery, courier delivery services together. This, of course, is done in conjunction with a partner called Easy Store and Easy Parcel. And we have launched this end of 2 weeks into our lockdown across 4 countries. And this has actually very, very good impact to our micro SME market across the 4 countries. And people actually gets a head start on it, and the packaging was actually very, very attractive to them. Next was Instant, right? We launched this middle of June this year, recently. And basically the pain point for this is typically a merchant would, you go to a merchant and you say, I want to enable you to accept payment, digital payment, right? It was difficult because sometimes we'll take about 2 weeks to 2 months to enable the whole device. So we came up with a very creative model that we can do everything in 2 hours. So hence we call it Instant, right? This is definitely first in ASEAN and definitely probably first in the world. So with this, we are able to, quote unquote, turn on a merchant to be able to sell, remember the ePay product I told you about, mobile reload bill payments, as well as accept any card payment, QR payment, or debit card payment within 2 hours. And this was important for us in terms of market acceptance, market penetration, etc. So, and it was very, very important for the merchant because they don't want to waste time on entertaining us if it takes too long. And this is actually done very well in conjunction with our digital onboarding capabilities, which actually communicates with the right credit bureau agency and stuff like that to underwrite the merchant within seconds. Last but not least is our, you see my growth slide? It's Jasper, is it on the right slide? I can't, it's a bit stuck.
Sorry.
Yep, is it on the growth slide now?
No, you are on the Insta Digital. No, you're not on the Grow right now. I'll get you over there. I'll get you over there. Why did you continue?
Okay, thank you. Okay, the last one is basically our Grow product. Basically, this is all about financial inclusion. Offering, now that we have the so-called relationship with the merchant from payment perspective, what else can we help them to grow? Hence the name. And in this, again, we actually work with partners like Aspirasi in the micro lending space. We also offer micro insurance to our merchants. and soon we'll be introducing micro wealth management to our micro SME. This to us is very, very important, and with the guidance of UNCDF, we actually was guiding us to see how we can help this micro SME, not just to accept payment, but to grow as a business. So that's my last product, and I shall hand over to Jasper.
All right, thank you so much, Danny. I would have loved to, really have this conversation in a way that like to understand, what is the secret sauce when you're trying to expand into so many different markets. But possibly we are all kind of time constrained right now. So I'll kind of, bring with that our next speaker in this conversation, Mr. Chris Leong from SoftSpace. And Chris, while I, try to hand over the presentation to you, why don't you continue why don't you do this?
I'm Chris from SoftSpace. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of SoftSpace, and SoftSpace is a fintech company in Malaysia that actually started. Let me try to take control. Okay, it's a fintech in Malaysia that actually expand its horizon into providing fintech as a service to other banks in Asia. Just want to, okay, all right. Okay, we are actually expanding into 10 different countries, and the latest country that we are in is actually Japan, and we provide a fintech as a service platform for financial institutions or wannabe financial institutions to actually move into in a very cost-effective manner without worrying about international securities and all. So, okay, this is some of the services that we offer, and this is typically our back platform vision. So anyone who wants to venture into fintech or to offer loans or to offer payments, they actually look into the platform, white label it, and do the necessary disbursement and all. So we are actually working with a lot of banks to actually transform their digital payment process so that they can actually work with MSMEs to collect payments and do the necessary things. And one of the key things we want to talk about, I think in this session, I want to spend more time, is actually some of the key observations during COVID. Of course, I think a lot of the topics has been covered by all the other speakers in the area, but I want to talk about one particular area, which is contactless payments. Because at the end of the day, at this juncture, people do not want to have any contacts possible, so signing it or whatsoever might not be a preferred choice. So a lot of people are moving to contactless payments, and in Europe, MasterCard and Visa are looking into limiting, upgrading, or putting the higher limit in terms of contactless payments without PIN or without a signature. So we believe that contactless payments is one of the way to go, and one of the things that is changing from data as well. And hence why we want to push, and this is a solution that is first in the world, to actually transform an Android smartphone into a contactless acceptance device. So you can tap your physical card on the phone. And this is a short video for me to share with you with regards to the whole experience. I will do a simple narration, but the process is actually a very simple process. The man is actually a delivery guy who is doing what we call a card on delivery. The lady is a card holder or a customer who are expected to pay a single amount. In the phone, you can actually use it for QR, but in this case, they are accepting contactless payment. The lady can actually just take off their My Debit card, tap on the phone, and immediately payment can be made. And as you can see, it's above the normal limit. Hence why the lady needs to key in her PIN. And this is another process that we are doing in the sense that we are trying to integrate a loyalty solution or voucher management system so that at the point of purchase, at the point of consuming, then you can actually, based on rules and requirements, provide vouchers to retain the customer. So this is what we do. And if you look into the snippet, this is a summary of what happened in the whole video. And this is the other one. And this has been launched in Malaysia, and also we are working with JCB to launch in Japan. But in Malaysia, we work with My Debit, Visa, and also MasterCard in all the respective banks. Okay. And as you can see, at the last end of the thing is also a loyalty management system, so that when we deploy this solution, the customer or the merchant can actually benefit from it by having a rules engine to analyze what kind of scenario or business rules that you want to reward the customer. Say, for example, from the system, it detects that this customer is the first time visiting you. Then do you want to give them a voucher for them to visit again, whatsoever? So this is something that we do on our varieties of payment system. And I think at the end, want to show that our white label model actually works together in a cost-effective manner. And just want to highlight, I think, the recent developments that we have with regards with partnership with MyPay. MyPay provides a solution to B40s, and we provide the whole platform for them to actually do that.
Thanks, Chris. I think that was really helpful in a short span of time. And, I think we were trying to kind of cover a lot of ground with 4 or 5 different types of use cases, which are equally important for MSMEs. I think we just have quickly 4 or 5 minutes left to take up a couple of Q&A.
Sure.
And so I'll basically, there are one or two questions. I'll just, I'll take up the first one and, ask Danny to maybe answer that.
Okay.
Danny, the question is, are you guys risk averse to go to Africa, MENA, and other Asian countries? The reason I'm putting this to you is that, I see that you have kind of expanded across beyond Malaysia in many ways. So what's your take on that?
Thanks for the question. We actually get asked this a lot because we pride ourselves as an ASEAN player. People keep asking us that. To be very frank, we are open to collaborate with someone local, and our contribution will probably be mainly on the technology side of things rather than operational side of things, because I believe the local party has the best, as you call it, secret sauce to make things successful on the local ground.
Right. No, thank you so much. Gurpreet, do you have a thought on that as well?
Yes, I think I would echo Danny's kind of comments here. So I had earlier shared how it's important for us to work in a partnership-based ecosystem because we want to understand the needs of SMEs in that specific market. Even in the few markets we've been in, Malaysia, Indonesia, the needs are very different. The only thing that I would add is maybe the common approach we would bring to all of these markets that underpins our approach is the empathy. So it's important to address the emotional pain points. Sometimes these are things that we can't relate intellectually with, but they matter quite a bit to the SMEs.
No, thank you so much. I think you were all spot on. And I think I'm just mindful of the time over here as well. And while, all these use cases that we heard of are important from their own aspects, what Gurpreet mentioned towards the end that, it all kind of boils down to the local context and what are the local pain points that we are trying to address, and that's where the relevance of some of these solutions will actually come into play. One thing which is relevant for Asia might not be fully relevant for Africa, and what is relevant for Africa might not be relevant. I think the contextualization is very, very important in that sense. With that, we'll kind of come to an end of this conversation. We'll try to see if we can share parts of this presentation with you with the permission of the presenters over here. But over to you, Mr. Abid. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaspreet, for moderating this informative and insightful session. It's always challenging to make presentations on technology solutions in short time, but we greatly appreciate the nice and concise and very informative presentation by solution providers. Wishing them all success in their future endeavors. Again, thanks to participants who intervened and sent their questions. Sorry if we didn't take some of these questions, but we will try to facilitate the contact. And as Brother Jaspreet said, we can share these presentations and make the necessary connections. And now, I have the great pleasure to call upon Mr. Ayman Sijini, the CEO of ICD, to deliver closing remarks. Over to you, Brother Ayman.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad. As you could imagine, the severity of the COVID-19 impact on the businesses is unprecedented. In ICD, member countries, MSMEs are experiencing cash flow problems, financing issues, interrupted supply chain movement, and delays in the business's processes. In addition, MSMEs have limited access to tools that engage their stakeholders, coupled with delaying with the constraints in the conducting non-cash transactions and trying to manage a high volume workforce, among other COVID-19 related challenges. Efforts to draw up the plans to manage the lead support to MSMEs sustainability has always been at the core of ICD operations. From what I observed after today's session, Malaysia initiatives and numerous programs to assist MSMEs during these trying times are encouraging and provide excellent references points for our member countries. I also note that COVID-19 is a game changer for digital transformation. The increasing need for higher technology capabilities to connect businesses, customers, and suppliers, and supply networks is fast tracking the world's into digitalization, and ICD member countries need to focus on these efforts. I personally really truly believe in fintech, and I believe that financial inclusion is going to be a great support and help for what we're looking for. And with immediate challenge precedented by COVID-19, but also now firmly thinking about economic recovery as we hopefully emerge from the pandemics, ICD as ISDB group private sector arm would like to take this opportunity to extend an invitation to collaborate in the near future. Together with everyone's experience and expertise, we can learn from one another and further unlock the potential of SMEs in ICD member countries with innovative solutions. I really thank you for this insightful session, and I truly appreciate the fresh perspectives and gained. I would really wish all of you, and we need to do all the dua to have this epidemic become ease and hopefully be under control or go away if God wishes to do so. And inshallah, all of us stay safe and away from all the after effects of all these COVID-19's challenges. I really thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be again with you on this platform.
Thank you very much, Brother Ayman, for these kind words and very inspiring message. With this, dear participants, we conclude our virtual event today, which we really hope was beneficial to all of you. We will follow up on the outcome of this event, and we stand ready to work together with all who are interested in exchanging successful solutions in the areas of focus of the Center of Excellence and contribute to the main mandate of ISDB, which is spurring the social and economic development in its member countries and Muslim communities in non-member countries, and strengthening the cooperation, investment, intra-trade among these countries. Thank you again. Thanks to all the panelists and moderators and solution providers. And thank you all for joining us. Stay safe and see you again in other events. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.